Well, good morning and welcome to Cloud Talk Live, everyone. So glad that you're here today. And how is your day? We're having a good one over here in San Antonio. I'll tell you, I got a little bit of a cold, so you may see me cough a little bit here or there. And but that's all right. So let's push this little button, get on about the day, turn some music down. Well, everyone, again, my name is Jeff DeVerter. I'm the Chief Technology Evangelist here at Rackspace Technology, headquartered in beautiful San Antonio, Texas, where it is a humid, sort of drippy day. And boy, do we need the rain. Well, hey, I'd love for you to introduce yourself in the comments, everyone. This is a conversation, not just a program where we talk to you, but we love to talk with you. And look, Hari already is saying hello. Tell me who you are. Tell me where you are. If you want to get a hold of us, you can easily do that by sending an email to solve@rackspace.com. And that will not put you on any mailing list to start getting a bunch of sales stuff. In fact, if you want to learn anything about what we're doing here, you're going to see the link come up along the way. It's rackspace.com/solve. That's our thought leadership program at Rackspace. No sales there. All right, folks, it's going to be a fine episode. Daniel's here, of course. Producer Daniel's doing his thing. Guys, this is episode 114. The audio from this is available over in the Cloud Talk podcast audio stream. Hey, Jeffrey, glad that you are here from Copper Mountain. Shoo, nice. And okay, back to the audio stream. That's right. Audio from this is available in the Cloud Talk podcast stream. Now, speaking of the podcast, which you can find anywhere podcasts are found, this week we have the amazing Rick Grunhagen. Now, Rick is the CTO over at a company called Innovize. Innovize does some amazing stuff. They have this water management application, this 3-tiered application that runs out in AWS now, thanks to a little company I know. And Iraq is here. I got to pause just for a second and welcome Iraq to the program. I think you're the first from Iraq. But Innovize works with water management municipalities all around the world. I think in 40 different countries. Pretty amazing stuff. And so we talk about their whole transformation out into AWS. So go check that out. And reminder, guys, shields up. That means you've got to be careful. Go over to cisa.gov/shields-up to learn how you can protect yourself. It is important, guys. Everyone is going crazy out there. All right, let's see. We have a cloud engineer for Kishore. Guys, today's conversation, we're getting into digital credentials today. And, the UK is here. But you know who else is here? Travis Runty is here. I've known Travis literally since I think my first day at Rackspace in 2008. And he is now the CTO of Cloud Operations at Rackspace. So everyone, how about a nice big welcome to Travis Runty?
Thanks, Jeff.
Travis, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Remember those early days when I first came to Rackspace and you had to show me how to use some of those base systems that we use inside of Rackspace?
Yeah, show you the basics, throw a Nerf dart at you, every now and then, whatever the we had to do at the time.
If you guys know Rackspace culture, you know that Nerf darts reign supreme. In fact, in the castle, which is what we call our corporate headquarters, is a room dedicated to Nerf. It is Nerf everything. It's not in the new 3D tour. Guys, if you have an Oculus, I did the 3D tour of Rackspace, an introduction. We will post it maybe in Thursday's episode, so you can check that out. It's good fun. Look, we got India's come to listen to you today, Travis. I mean, Iraq is here. The UK is here. Ireland is here. All kinds of people are here.
That's right. It's a global discussion. That's awesome.
It's almost like technology is everywhere. Well, Travis says, was somebody being known working inside of tech for the amount of years that you have? I was joking earlier before we went live that I also live vicariously through your work on automobiles. I had decided I really wanted to be a guy who could work on cars. I really wanted that to be one of my things. And I've made a few runs at it, but that is not me. So I lived through your Facebook posts of, how you buy a car and you cannot be settled with that car. Things change.
I can't. I'm a maker, right? And so it's in my nature to take things apart, understand the way they work, and make them better.
Well, isn't that good that you have the role that you do at Rackspace too, as a CTO of Cloud Operations? It's almost like that goes hand in hand.
Almost. I don't know.
Well, I was reading some articles and again, excuse me for the cough, a little cold I'm dealing with. And I was reading some articles, one from MIT actually, and MIT has got this consortium of digital credential, of creating this digital credential system for universities, because while newer and newer degrees and such have been created over the years, the way that these are captured and dealt with hasn't changed since. I mean, we could probably go back hundreds of years, maybe even farther. But they're now rethinking it from a digital point of view. And when we think about digital credentials, whether that is for a university degree, for certificates, for technical achievements, for something unique to a company, digital certificates are really starting to make a big name for themselves. And it's a little extra side project you have here at Rackspace as well. So let's start with, what is a digital credential?
Yeah, it's a verifiable digital source of information, right? It
Right.
can mean a lot of different things. We've talked about different creative ways that people are using it, but ultimately, it's a place to access information from a verified source.
Right. Hey, real quick question for the audience. How many people here are using digital credentials? Maybe through a company like Credly. There's a couple of other ones out there, but just curious if you're using them. Just let us know if you are, and what your experiences are with them. All right, so it's a digital verifiable certificate that at some point you had a skill. You took a test. You proved the fact that you could do a thing. Now, this might be stuff like, an AWS architect deal, or it may be, or test or certification. It may be something from Azure or Google. So we think about this in the large form around these large cloud companies, but also more and more when these other partners like Snowflake comes to mind, or App Dynamics comes to mind. Great company, App Dynamics, by the way, sponsor of the program. It's a pretty subtle way to work that in there, wasn't it?
Right.
And but more and more, as you take their classes, they have digital credentials. So it's a way to get in and actually be able to. Again, goes back to verify what you do. Travis, you're here. Part of what you're working on right now at Rackspace is implementing digital credentials. Why is Rackspace interested in these at this point?
Yeah, and what you mentioned as a part of what a digital credential can be is a skill, right? Tracking a collection of skills, but there's also other elements, right? There's participation in a major event or exciting event. I reference we've had major vulnerabilities in the past that Rackspace and other companies across the world have worked to address. Those are
Mhm.
huge undertakings by a lot of team members, and it takes a lot of their personal time. And so, I think having a badge or of participating and conquering that vulnerability was a fun event. Fun, maybe a reach, but an event that is fun to acknowledge that people were participants of. I think that other sort of recognitions, it's a great way to do that as well. But ultimately, we know that uh, uh, people like to be recognized in different ways, right? Some of our engineers are quiet, don't like that public recognition. Some love it. But ultimately, we feel that digital credentials is a universal way to track that source of truth, which is absolutely critical, but also to celebrate internally and externally the achievements, the growth of our team members. We do the was it Clifton Strengths at Rackspace, right? And I
Yeah,
believe it's still a dominant strength is learner at Rackspace.
that's
That's
right.
by far, right, the strongest or most overweighted strength at Rackspace. And so I think launching a program such as a digital badging tool uh, helps support that process that so many of our team members are doing anyway. It gives a universal way to recognize those team members internally and externally. And as a nice impact side effect, it gives us a really really great way to collect and view that information about our workforce. We know
Yeah,
that customer engagements are getting more and more targeted to technologies. And so while we understand what a customer's needs are coming in the rack space, this also gives us a way to understand who the right rackers are that might have that unique experience or validation to support that customer need. So it's really, really great from a Racker engagement, from a partner enablement, from a customer solution perspective. It solves a lot of things.
It does, and as we have moved through what COVID has sort of forced, where we measured productivity on how many hours did you sit in your seat, as opposed to now we don't know where somebody's seated most of the time, to what the output is, and so we're measuring on output. But if you take that, and by the way, I believe that's the right way to measure it because you're actually measuring productivity.
Yep.
If you take that then to the beginning of the process where you're trying to fill that figurative seat, you're now be able to do that through a truly a skills-based hiring experience, and do it in a way that is transparent and verifiable. A couple of words you keep using, which is great. But I love that you're calling out engagement, because this is a huge way to drive engagement. And what a credential system does is a way, I mean, it's the figurative pat on the back when somebody achieves something, and that goes so far. It is so much easier to encourage and grow your workforce than it is to rehire your workforce every couple of years, because you run them into the ground, or they, like you said, engineers are quiet folks, and they'll just sit there and stew if they're unhappy and then slink away. um, it's what we do. So, but there's some really interesting studies out there that say that implementing a recognition system like this can increase productivity by 48%. 48%. I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
It,
Well, it puts the control in the engineer's hands, right? They get
mhm.
that badge. They can make it private and say, "I have that. That's great." It stops there, right? No one else needs to know. Or they can say, I'm so excited. I've been working so hard for this. This is a path, and I finally got to the where I wanted to be. And I'm going to share this with my LinkedIn community, right? I'm going to share this with my grandma, right? But it gives a great way for people to really control uh, how they're celebrated or how they're acknowledged beyond themselves.
Yeah. And so, it drives the skills-based hiring. It drives, if you, and not just hiring for a new employee, but also as that individual gets more credentials, more skills, then they have the ability to move around inside of the company. And that's the best, that's the way we grow up great talent inside of any organization. Again, I'll go back to when you and I first met. I think it's a good example for this one. I mean, when we think about where somebody could be in technology inside of Rackspace, you found the bottom of the ladder, right? I mean, you were working the proverbial switchboard, sending tickets left and right to get to the right teams to get things fixed. And now you're
Absolutely.
the CTO of cloud operations.
Yeah.
Why? Well, one, because you're a talented individual, but the second is the fact that you just keep getting more and more skills and more capabilities and grow within the organization. And somebody like you, with as much history as you have, that tribal knowledge is indispensable in organizations that have some years behind them.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
Well, and of course you agree, because we're talking about you and how the amazing career you've had. But when you think about some of the folks who now on these engineering teams that where we're implementing this, and we're implementing this company wide. I mean, everybody gets to use it, not just the engineers. That's CTO Cloud Operations focuses on the engineers where he should. Um, And so let's talk a little bit about some of the badges that we think are important to us inside of our organization. And again, not necessarily that it's the only way to be done. This is the power of these credentials, is the fact that you can customize them, sorry, for your organization. So how are we looking at that?
Yeah, so we're looking at least four different tracks, right? There's career progression tracks, there's learning tracks, there's community tracks, a lot of things that we've already had within Rackspace, but a more formalized and visual way of viewing it. For example, on the learning track, we set goals for our team members on how many learning hours a year we want them to achieve, and
Yeah.
so there's the target that we've established, and there's a stretch goal that we've also established. So now we've got nested badges that records can strive to. Another path is we have our TCT program, which is our most senior technical talent. TCT has a very crisp sort of intake process, sort of requirements, path basically to get there. And so what we're doing is, not only is now TCT going to be a badge, we're trying to figure out how to make all those requirements for TCT elements or badges as a path to get there as well.
Right. And again, it puts measurable levels inside of that. And since it is well defined, people know what they need to do to achieve those elements.
That's right. And it's kind of neat. I mean, with information comes flexibility, right? And so, we're playing with Credly right now as our likely path, our path, we'll say. But we're well down the path. But what's neat about it is, for example, we can say if you're a TCT badge holder, which is our technical career track, our most senior technical talent. If you're a badge holder there, then I can begin to start recommending or targeting other badges to you. And so, based off a persona or a skill set, we can say, hey, you're clearly a well-established technologist in Rackspace. You should look at this public speaker track because you got so much information to share. Like, here's another badge system where we can direct you to speaking to internally or externally and sharing what you have. And so it's really neat the way you can target and help direct people towards something that's kind of natural for their career.
Yeah. So, we're not coming up with a whole lot of negatives here on why to do it. And one that might be in people's minds would be, is this expensive to do? And without getting into our specifics, you've looked deeply at Credly. How does that price for an organization generally?
Yeah. So, I won't go into the details, but the thing is, you're able to ramp it. And so, we started with 1,000 seats. So let's try it out. Let's target a specific community, and it was very, very affordable. For a company our size, it was absolutely affordable. And so, generally, that can be things like that can be cost prohibitive, and that was absolutely not the situation when it came to this project.
Yeah. So we're using Credly. What are some of the other leaders in the space?
Yeah, was it Certifyly? They all start with a Y, it seems like. Yeah, we shopped around for a couple, and they all have their own unique elements. Ultimately, we ended up going with Credly because most of the hyperscalers use them as their primary.
Yeah.
But they all have their own trade-offs, of course.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. Well, Travis, thanks so much for being on the program today. Digital credentials, obviously where it's at. And I think we're going to see, not just in our technical world, them being used so much more, but more and more throughout traditional universities. I mentioned the MIT consortium that they've got. So it's a fascinating space. I'm excited to see it being launched here at Rackspace. And are our credentials going to be public? Can people see what as our? Yeah, they will.
We might have a concept of private credentials, but default absolutely public.
Fantastic. Well, folks, if you've ever wanted to have a Rackspace credential, we're not here on the Cloud Talk program to sell Rackspace, other than to say it's a great place to work. And if you come work here, you can get some credentials. George, come on, join the party. Come on over. You can work remote. I know you don't want to, but you could. All right. Travis, have a great rest of your day. Thank you for being on the program again, as always. And I'll see you in the next meeting, I'm sure.
Sounds good, Jeff. Have a good day.
Right. Have a great day. All right. Digital credentials, folks. What do you think? Not a lot of people commenting about that down there, but I would love to know sort of what you're thinking about them. And I've lost the little window that makes things move forward. There it is. Nice. All right. Well, as always, guys, I'll keep mentioning this audio from this program shows up in our Cloud Talk podcast stream. If you just want to go get any of the information from today, learn more about Travis, follow him on LinkedIn and any of the other socials if you want to see some of his maker things that he's up to. Fascinating, by the way. You can find that over at rackspace.com/solve/114. This is episode 114. All right, moving on, guys. So takes us over to This Week in the Cloud. So with that, let's push all the right buttons. There we go. Oh, I can push that button over here. like I don't know what I'm doing. Like it's the first time I've done this since the weekend. All right, guys. So you want to change cloud providers. Here's a really interesting article that popped up in my feed. and it's actually an article. I think it showed up in InfoWorld first, but it's actually comes from some writings over at the Hacker News, and it's interesting because it goes into the challenges of what it is to move cloud providers. Now, it breaks it down in a couple of different ways. If you want to have lots of flexibility in being able to move from one cloud provider to the next for whatever reason you might have, cost, personal preference, new CTO, who knows? Well, the best way to be able to do that, well, unfortunately, is to use that least common denominator of capabilities. And what they're actually espousing here is saying, look, if you're going to go into the cloud, use the cloud for all it's worth. And I'll translate that for a second. And I'm going to say, embrace vendor lock-in. It's what it means. Because if you're going to use the least common denominator, then what they're ultimately saying is, oh, you think you can invent a better cloud? Because that's really what it comes down to. Could you create the technologies that already exist in the cloud, but you don't want to use because you think you may want to move clouds at some point. So interesting article. Go read it. It's in the links in the show notes page over at rackspace.com/solve/114. Also in the news, folks, is that the cloud software market is exploding. And so in this article, cloud native software market it's not going to boom, guys. It is booming. And it talks about, through some research studies in here, how much Oracle, SAP, Symantec, VMware, and several others are absolutely exploding and are set to continue to grow over the next several years. Just because we have all this cloud native goodness does not mean that some of these legends in software are going anywhere. So go check that out. All right, so let's move on. And that's going to take us up to what's going on in cloud releases. So that's the news. The news is what you need to, how the cloud is making the news and why it's important to you. Cloud releases is what's going on in those cloud providers that you need to know about. And it starts with AWS. Their AWS Resource Access Manager achieves FedRAMP compliance. This, of course, is hugely important because the government is becoming, if not already is, one of the largest industries to utilize public cloud. And we've seen here in the US some amazing changes in how they're approaching that. If you think back to that JEDI project that was supposed to be this one big contract to rule them all, and there was lots of fighting between Microsoft and AWS and Google yipping at the sides, really wanting a piece of that as well. They pulled a lot of that stuff back, and now, of course, what are they taking? They're taking a multi-cloud approach. I wonder who said multi-cloud's a thing. I think it was us. All right, so that's what's going on over at AWS. Also, over at Azure, general availability, that Azure Data Explorer, which keeps making the news. It's almost like Azure Data Explorer is a thing. I think it's a thing. Well, now that you can, it supports Azure private endpoints as for sources for the Azure Data Explorer. So go check that out. It's in GA. Now, some bad news or challenging news from over at Google Cloud. A security vulnerability has been discovered in the Linux kernel version 5.8 and later that could potentially give the user of a container privileged access to root. Never a good thing, guys. And this is an issue not just for Linux there, but Anthos is pretty heavily impacted by this. So it's time to upgrade. There's great instructions over at Google Cloud. In fact, you can find a link to those instructions over at rackspace.com/solve/114. All right, so that's cloud releases. Now let's move over to the job of the day. And, we look at the analytics for you good, nice folks who watch this program. And more, I'm finding folks who are working in the sales area inside of tech. And so I thought, why not talk about a multi-cloud sales product client executive? You know what that ultimately means? That is somebody who is representing AWS to our clients. In fact, I thought I would choose a different country. We haven't talked about Canada a whole lot. Toronto. This job is available in Toronto. We're expanding the sales force, or in fact, we're expanding a lot of people up there in Toronto and Canada at large. So if you are an AWS seller, you want to sell AWS, have we got a job for you? And if you'll just head over to rackspace.com/solve/114, you'll find a link to that job. You can learn all about it. You can even apply right online. Guys, this audio from this is available in the Cloud Talk podcast. Feel free to find that wherever podcasts are found. and would love for you to subscribe because you can't always make the video, right? Tuesdays and Thursdays, 8:30 Central. All right, everyone, that is going to do it for this week. And I mentioned a company earlier doing some credentialing, and that's our good friends over at App Dynamics. What is your company doing for software observability? Has your company moved out into the cloud with your cloud native software? You know what? Tracking the performance and health of that software from customer to end data endpoint is extraordinarily challenging, especially when CDNs are involved, especially when geography is involved, and when multiple systems, in some cases, multiple clouds are involved. But App Dynamics is the one company you should go look for. They're a proud sponsor of the Cloud Talk podcast and program over here at Solve. So go check them out at appdynamics.com. They're a part of Cisco. And they're just some great people over there as well. You know what? There's been some interesting studies. I have none of those studies in front of me, but I've read about them. So we'll just pretend I'm an expert for a second here and say that a lot of business decisions are made not just on the technical capability, but on the business relationships you establish with those companies. I know that we here at Rackspace love our customers and love getting to know them and serve them well. And I know that same holds true for over at App Dynamics. Just good people providing good services. They've got a really killer offer around there. I think they'll even take your first app observability either for free or they'll help you through it. Yeah, I'm going to tell you it's a good carrot on the stick because their software just flat out works. So go check them out. Guys, it has been amazing being a part of the program with you today. Thank you for taking the time to be here. We are back on Thursday, and I'm going to keep the guest secret, partially because I don't know who it is yet, but I'm going to keep it secret just to create some anticipation. All right, I will see you later in the week. I'm going to see you on Thursday at 8:30 Central Time. And next Thursday, mark your calendars. I have a corporate vice president from Microsoft Security who is going to be on. Brilliant woman. You're going to love getting to hear from her. And she's got some incredible capabilities, great experience, and you're going to love that conversation. All right, folks. So for all of us here at Cloud Talk, my name is Jeff DeVerter. Have a great day.